Hey guys, welcome back to the Real Rendezvous podcast. I'm Hunter, he's Brett, and today we are going to review a very nostalgic film for me, very near and dear to my heart, 1996's Scream, starring Neve Campbell, Skeet Ulrich, interesting name.
Wait, who was Skeet Ulrich?
Billy.
That's Billy?
Yeah.
It's a good name.
Matthew Lillard, Jamie Kennedy, and David Arquette. Also, probably the most famous character I probably should have let off with, at this time anyway, Courtney Cox starred in this. So Brett, before we dive into Scream though, I just wanted to touch base on a couple things. How are you doing? You doing pretty good?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good today. Today's been a good day. I watched Scream for the first time. I went bowling with my grandma. And now I'm here recording with you. How's your day been?
Well, like I said earlier, I got off midnight shift, and I'm so glad that was my last shift of midnight for the next couple months. It was freezing last night. It's been freezing here where we live in West Virginia the last week. Mm-hmm. Last night at work, it was like -8 degrees, so it was pretty brutal. Other than that, before you came over to record, I was about to click start on episode 1 of Peacemaker.
Oh.
Yeah.
I can go. You can watch it. Please watch it.
I will get to it eventually, but...
it is so good. We don't do TV shows here because they take too long to watch. But
yeah.
Peacemaker is fantastic so far, and you should definitely check it out.
I know we usually don't bullshit too much at the beginning, but I just wanted to kind of touch base on that real quick. Mm-hmm. But
shout out James Gunn.
Yeah, shout out to James Gunn. Have we shouted out James Gunn yet on the pod?
I think like every episode so far.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
And he deserves it.
That should maybe be like a podcast staple.
Yeah, to at least one James Gunn shout out.
He's my guy. You know who else is my guy? Wes Craven. I like Wes Craven. Wes Craven directed Scream. He's also very famous for directing the entire Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, which, as an avid horror fanatic, a freak,
absolutely,
Brett watched the entire series.
Yeah, I don't really know what came over me that day, but I sat down with...
It was like you had this personal challenge for yourself.
That's really what it was.
That nobody else cared about.
It was absolutely, completely self-imposed. I didn't have to do it at all, but I sat down on my couch with an Amazon Prime account and a dream, and I said, you know what? Today, I'm going to watch all 9 Nightmare on Elm Street films in order without stopping. And the only good one was the very first one.
I'm impressed, honestly.
It was, if I could go back and change it, I would stop at 3.
Really?
Yeah, because 2 and 3 weren't bad, but they just kept going. They just kept getting worse.
I think maybe 1 and 2 are the only ones Wes Craven directed.
Oh, yeah? Well, he definitely did Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Which is just a meta weird mess of a film.
That came out a couple years prior to Scream.
Really?
And a lot of people say that was like kind of not resurgence, but kind of like a resurgence in Wes Craven's career was New Nightmare. Whenever me and Alyssa were in Colorado this past October, we were in our hotel room. We just watched some scary movies. And that's one of the ones that we watched was Wes Craven's New Nightmare. And I thought it was going to be way better than what it was. I remembered it being way better than what it was.
To be completely fair, it might be better than I give it credit for, but at being the 9th movie in a very long night of movies, I think I was just over it.
I think putting it in that perspective, being the 9th film in the series, it's good as being the 9th film in the series.
That's fair.
But if you look at it just as a standalone film, it's really not that great. But so Wes Craven, that's what he's mostly famous for. But this guy's iconic in the horror realm. He's I'm sure a lot of people would probably put him up there in the top 3, 4, 5 horror film directors. Just to talk about some other staples in his catalog of films he's directed: The Last House on the Left, the original one; The Hills Have Eyes, the original one. So that just goes to show you right there, he's a legend because there's 2 films of his that have been remade. He made 1982's TV movie Swamp Thing.
Really?
That's crazy. I did not know that.
Wow.
We're gonna have to dig into that a little bit.
100%.
Then Nightmare on Elm Street. That was the only one until New Nightmare that he directed. I mean, this guy's been around for a long time. He sadly passed away in 2015.
I actually did not know that.
Yeah.
I did not know that he had passed.
Yeah, I remember whenever he passed away, I was a little bummed out.
Yeah, shout out Wes Craven.
Shout out Wes Craven. R.I.P. But, so anyways, we're here to talk about probably his second most famous film, Scream. And like I said, it came out in 1996, directed by Wes Craven, written by Kevin Williamson, who also is famous for being the writer and creator of Dawson's Creek, which is just, more 90s schlock. It was a TV series with James Van Der Beek. This movie had a budget of, what did I say earlier?
$14 million.
14
is
million.
What you said.
And it's U.S. I lost it already.
It was like $130 million that it made back.
Its U.S. gross was $103 million, and its worldwide gross was $173 million. So, I mean, it made a lot of money.
We were talking a bit before we started recording. I have absolutely no idea where that $14 million went to, because this does not look or feel like a $14 million film.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of props. I mean, unless...
I mean, maybe the practical stuff cost more than we would think, but...
I shouldn't say that. I would say that a lot of, like, the indoor scenes and things could be built sets. So... maybe that's where, some of the budget went towards, but, anyways, I mean, it made good money, and, I don't know if I already touched base on this or not, but the reason I picked this film to review is because, when we first started this podcast, I stated that I really like horror movies. I mean, I'm not like a huge, hardcore, diehard horror film fan, but I would consider myself an above average, horror person, and this movie's like, super nostalgic for me. I can remember being really young, and my stepmom always watched horror movies, and there was a lot of them that I didn't want to watch because I was a little bitch and I was scared to watch certain movies. But Scream was always one that I really liked, and it was also like something that kind of shaped like my perspective on character archetypes, which is ironic.
Yeah,
because they poke fun at that throughout this movie. And that's kind of a way that I was able to lasso Brett into watching this.
Yeah.
I knew that, Brett said before he's not huge into horror movies.
Yeah.
This one's, like I've said a few times, it's not just a hard horror movie per se. I mean, it's got a lot more to it, being it's very meta and very humorous.
Yeah, very, very. I've been saying the word satirical. I don't know if that's the most accurate description.
I think it's accurate.
Well,
I would agree.
Yeah, okay. Well, because I like the way you said it just now, when you said that it's oh wow, sorry. Repeat what you just said to me.
I forget it already too.
Okay, well the word
I'm glad you think it was great though.
The word Hunter just used to describe it that wasn't the word satirical. I felt was a better description of it than satire.
Don't worry, they know they can hit rewind.
Yeah,
15 seconds on the pod.
You guys can remember what he just said. So you understand what I'm trying to say. But yeah, like Hunter said, I've mentioned here before that I'm not a big horror movie fan. I think they're predictable. I think the stories aren't usually super gripping to me. Yeah. But spoiler alert, I did really, really enjoy Scream a lot more than I thought I would. Honest, I was pleasantly surprised with this movie.
Yeah, and as we stated whenever we first started this podcast, we're subject to pick movies that we like to review anyway, so that's a big reason why I picked Scream. Like I said, it's super nostalgic for me, and so obviously I'm going to give it a pretty good rating. But I was glad to introduce it to Brett. Like I said, I knew he would like it. But with that said, Brett, anything else you want to touch base on just at the beginning here, talking about Scream? Anything specific?
Just a small tidbit. My only exposure to this to the world of Scream and the character of Ghostface.
Oh God, I think I know what you're going.
Yeah, no, he knows what I'm gonna say. My first exposure to any of this, like this entire character, Hunter has little bit of a pet peeve about this, but my exposure to this was the Scary movies.
Yeah.
And I knew they were based on like something else. I didn't think that like they made up the character of Ghostface and like that mask and stuff, but that was the only thing that I had ever seen of it.
Like, obviously, Scary Movie rips Scream, and that's fine. And I don't hate Scary Movie. I think it's funny. It's very lowbrow, stupid, idiot comedy. But if you can't laugh at stuff like that, then you have a bad fucking sense of humor, in my opinion. But it does frustrate me whenever people, like, that's all they can relate to, because Scream is just, like, such, in my opinion, like I said, it's so nostalgic and so iconic. It's such a product of the 90s. And I said that earlier to Alyssa, and she got mad. I don't know why. I was saying it as a compliment. And then, you know, talking about the cast even, like, all these people were either close to their peak or peaking as far as, like, being actors. Like Courtney Cox, she was in Friends. She's in this movie as Gail Weathers, which is a hilarious
that's a
news reporter name.
Really funny.
Which I think that right there is like somewhat meta. But Nev Campbell had already, maybe not, I might be wrong about that, but either had already or very soon after this film starred in another horror movie called The Craft. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's about witches.
I've not. Nope.
Ironically enough, Rose McGowan, like I was saying earlier, she got her big stardom after this, playing on the TV series Charmed, also about witches.
Oh, yeah. What's our boy Skeet up to? Do we got any word on him?
He's in Riverdale.
Is he, like, right now?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Alyssa loves Riverdale.
Oh, wow.
And Alyssa's my wife. And yeah, he's in that. So Alyssa's a big Skeet Ulrich stan. I wonder what his actual name is. I hope to God it's not Skeet.
I can't think of anyone that would, like, willingly go by Skeet.
What would that, would that even be an abbreviation for anything?
I don't think so.
I mean, I don't know.
No offense to, what was his last name?
Ulrich.
No offense to Skeet Ulrich.
Was that Skeet getting a hold of you just now?
Yeah. He's like, guys, stop.
Yeah. He's like texting Brett, telling him we'll hear from his lawyer.
Yeah, leave me alone.
Actually, he's just texting him, asking him what his favorite scary movie is.
No, please, Billy. It's Scream.
Yeah. But yeah, I just feel like this embodies that whole 90s aesthetic that honestly is making a comeback. I mean, I don't know if you was like checking out the outfits in this movie, but that's like the hip style and hip way to dress nowadays.
They got the drip.
Yeah, they drip too hard. But
with blood.
Yeah, I like that. But anyways, I'm gonna quit rambling about nostalgia with this movie. If you don't input anything else, I'm gonna jump into the.
Yeah, no, I got nothing else for our little prelude.
Yeah, sorry, the prelude's a little short on facts here.
Yeah,
I do kind of want to just dive into the plot though, because talking about like the characters' interactions and where the story ends up going. At its core, it is a slasher movie, but it turns it on its side a little bit and really plays up, like we've already said a couple times, the meta humor and the satirical nature of what a slasher movie really is. Because slashers, you know, they started out back in the late 70s with Black Christmas and Halloween, and they had a very, like, probably the most simple film formula of anything of all time. And as, you know, they got put out, go through the 80s, you get more and more blood, more and more guts, and less brains, I guess, if that makes sense. You already took a simple premise and made it duller.
Yeah.
And, you know, these are the kind of movies that make money, though, and that's why that happened. You give people violence, they buy it and consume it. But there was a point at the end of the 80s that slashers kind of, I don't want to say died and went away, but they were just kind of few and far between. And when Scream came out, it really reinvigorated the slasher subgenre and really like horror in general. This is all stuff that I know now as I've gotten older and became more of a fan, and it just makes me appreciate Scream that much more, whereas I already had that subtle appreciation of it whenever I was young growing up, seeing it like I said with my stepmom, and just really liking all the characters, the interactions. I love the whodunit mystery aspect of the film too. I mean, do you have anything that you would like to elaborate on with that?
Not a ton. No,
Okay.
I think you covered it pretty well.
Well, with that said, I'm going to pull up the synopsis here. I'm going to try to ramble a little less. You guys will have to bear with me and bear with us. We're still in the early stages of things, so I'm going to try and get through it pretty quick. But with that said, I use IMDb's app to read off the synopsis, picking through it. They're pretty lengthy, but I try to pick what I can and what makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, Scream, 1996. The film opens with young Casey Becker, played by a young Drew Barrymore, receiving phone calls from an unidentified caller. At first, it seems as if he has gotten a wrong number, but it soon becomes clear he is just playing games with her, and his voice gets more and more threatening, originally coming off at almost flirtatious towards her. Casey becomes scared, and when she realizes her caller can see her, she begins to panic, and after he threatens her and says he's going to kill her, and forces her to play a game of movie trivia in exchange for her life and the life of her boyfriend, Steve, who she sees tied up on her back porch. So, with this intro right here, it's extremely iconic. It starts out like it says, it's just a girl at home by herself. She gets a landline phone call, which is also just a product of its time. But, we all remember those days whenever you had to use a landline phone. And, I thought the banner here was just is awesome.
I thought it was really funny how she was ready to throw Steve under the bus for the flirty phone man.
Yeah, and I like that though. I like that that almost gives a realistic nature to it. I feel like this girl is talking to this guy on the phone. He sounds attractive.
Yeah.
And just kind of pokes and prods and stuff. And at one point, I think she says they have 900 numbers for that.
Yeah.
Which another thing having to do with landline phones from the 90s, 900 numbers. But then, at one point he slips. He doesn't slip. He makes it seem like he slips, but he purposely hints at he can see her.
Mm-hmm.
So she gets scared. He calls her back. He threatens her. And then there's a little part of the soundtrack here that plays before she answers the phone for the second time. And whenever she threatens to hang up on him again, that's whenever he, really snaps and says he's going to gut her like a fish if she hangs up again. So at this point, they're continuing their conversation about the horror movie trivia. And he asks her a warm-up question about who the killer was of Halloween. We all know it's Michael Myers. Mm-hmm. And at first, she's really reluctant to play. And then she realizes, well, I got that right. I'll just, whatever. I have to.
Yeah.
She's forced to. So then he asks her who the killer was in the Friday the 13th franchise. She says Jason. He says wrong. They argue about it. And any, true horror fan would know Jason was not introduced till the second film.
Well, he was in the first film, but he was just a little water boy.
He was not introduced as the murderer until the second film. I apologize. Also, a fun fact could have been Ghostface's next question. Honestly, is his iconic hockey mask was not introduced till the third film.
Yep, he had a sack on for the second one.
I got this sweet T-shirt. It's all Friday the 13th Part 2. because like he does most of his killing with an axe in part 2, and it's got like a big bloody axe like down the sleeve.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it looks badass. It's got like the sack, like the burlap sack, on, like Jason on the front of it. So anyways, she gets that question wrong. So the killer ends up killing Steve, and then he continues to torment her, and finally he breaks through like her glass back door and starts chasing after her. And this is where we first see like the iconic ghost face mask and the outfit. And they end up getting outside and chasing her across the lawn. And at this point, her parents are coming home. She lives like kind of like in a rural area.
Yeah.
Like a cornfield, I think, was there. I wonder if that's a subtle nod to anything. Maybe like a Children of the Corn.
Maybe
not.
I don't know much about any of that.
This movie has quite a few Easter eggs of other horror films.
Lots of nods.
So anyways, he chases her across the yard as her parents are pulling in the driveway. She's just about to make it to them before he catches her and gets her on the ground and stabs her. He also chokes her and crushes her what do you call this?
The windpipe? Esophagus?
Yeah. Hey, there it is. Esophagus.
Okay. Esophagus.
Dr. Brett Michael Prickett. So he crushes her esophagus, and then she can't scream. But at this point, she still has the landline phone in her hand. And the parents come in the house, and they're looking for her, can't find her. She was popping popcorn on the stove, and it's already like burst into flames, so they put the fire out, and they can't find Casey. They get on the other phone on the landline, and they can hear her breathing on there, but they can't hear any words. So they panic, and the husband says, I'm going to keep looking through the house for her, go to the McKenzie's next door, and call the police. When the mom runs out on the porch, she screams, and that's when we see Casey's dead body strung up in the tree in the front yard.
Yeah.
And opening credits, screen. And so before I continue on here, I just want to say, like I already said, but I'm going to say it again, absolutely iconic opening. I kind of brushed through that quickly right there. But this is, probably like a 20-minute span that this all takes place in. And it just builds tension perfectly. It starts out, like I said, so innocent. They're flirting, and you don't really think, you don't think much of it. And I could see this being, if you saw this movie in theaters in 96, like Drew Barrymore's got to be the lead girl. You know what I mean?
For sure, yeah.
A name like that, and then it's opening like this. And then it just kind of like doesn't get flipped on its side. It's this slow rotation to what actually ends up happening. And then, I really thought that it was really, really frightening too. Scary movies don't always scare me. I watch them for blood, guts, violence, dumb shit. But I feel like there was a really certain sense of like fright and sincerity in the mom and the dad when they hear Casey on the other side of the landline. And the music changes too. The score, which is great throughout this whole film, I love it. But the score goes from your typical like really high pitched shrills for like a horror movie to almost this ominous gothic choir, which also is played throughout the movie that I love. And whenever we see her dead body, it's almost like makes it way more somber and sad.
Yeah.
So I just think that whole opening sequence is iconic. That's the only word I can use to describe it.
I think that's the perfect word to describe it, because it really does. It sets up everything you need to know about this sort of this world and this story they're about to take us on.
Yes.
It sets up sort of Ghostface's like main gimmick, and then it also, when he's chasing her around the house, you get that sense that carries out throughout the movie that like this is just a guy.
Right.
A lot of horror movies, we were talking about this earlier, a lot of horror movies, you got your Jasons and your Michael Myers and your Freddy Kruegers, and it's like these guys that are just like somehow just like unstoppable. This like vaguely supernatural, not super explained sort of like plot armor.
What's hilarious about that too is like Michael and Jason, like when the films started out at first, there was no supernatural elements to them whatsoever. but it suffers from, okay, we're 12 films deep in this series.
So like, how is this guy still here?
Yeah, well, this is how we're going to explain it. It was he sold his soul to Satan. It was like crazy shit like that.
But you see sort of Ghostface's sort of like incompetence as a killer and as just an attacker in general.
Yeah, I mean,
he gets thrown around a lot in this movie.
It's funny because he's a klutz, but at the same time, it's also adds a sense of realism that you can appreciate.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So with that said, opening credits, boom, scream. And then we're showed our actual lead, Sidney Prescott, played by Neve Campbell. She's in her bedroom, and her boyfriend, Billy Loomis, sneaks into the bedroom window and starts coming on to her and attempts to have sex with her. Sidney is unsure and wants to remain a virgin for now. They're almost caught by Sidney's dad, Neil, as he comes into her room to discuss the fact that he's going out of town the next morning. At that point, we also learn that Sidney's mother was killed approximately a year prior, and that Sidney and her father are alone. Sidney was part of the legal stuff. What's the word I'm looking for here?
Proceedings.
The trials.
The trial, yeah.
She testified against a person named Cotton Weary, played by Liv Schreiber. He doesn't have a very big role in the film, as being the killer, and he is going through the whole process of being tried. The next day, Sidney's school is abuzz with the news of the murder, and classes are temporarily canceled. Sidney decides that since her father is gone and she is alone, she's going to stay with her best friend Tatum, played by Rose McGowan. Sidney, Tatum, and Billy sit with a group of friends, including Randy, portrayed by Jamie Kennedy, who is actually the horror movie buff in this film, and also Stu, played by Matthew Lillard, Shaggy God, a class clown stereotype who used to date Casey Becker. He's actually now dating Tatum. And this scene right here is really cool because it establishes all these character archetypes. Like we said, you know, Stu the class clown, Billy's kind of like the bad boy, edgy guy, Sidney's the goody two-shoes, virgin, and then Tatum is kind of like the mouthy best friend, don't mess with me type of girl.
The best character in the movie.
She does have a lot of really good dialogue.
I'm a big Tatum fan.
With that said, I think all of the characters have really good dialogue.
No. The dialogue in the movie it's very, it's got a certain charm to it because it's not like super.
It's not creative, I don't think. Yeah. But at the same time, I think it's very realistic.
It's like purposely uncreative, sort of in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're all an archetype. You know?
Yeah.
And like I said, it's kind of. I feel like it has a certain sense of realism to it. I feel like almost that these actors were told, they were given bullet points of what they need to say, and they were allowed to kind of freelance.
Yeah, it doesn't feel so much as when it needs to feel like a script, it does, you know, in certain parts of the movie. But for a lot of it, when it's just like their banter, it doesn't feel scripted.
Yeah, I think it has like a certain sense of naturalness to it. Is naturalness a word?
It is now.
We're gonna have to break out like a thesaurus or a dictionary when we record. But so I love that scene. You were saying you're a fan of Tatum. Me too. Me and my wife Alyssa are expecting a daughter in June, and we're naming her Tatum. Not specifically after this movie, but kind of. So anyways, and also in this scene, they kind of start prodding at each other about who potentially would be the killer and what each one's motives are. And that's pretty cool too. Yeah, no, that was a good part. I thought it was funny that Stu was kind of like offended that they didn't think that he could do it. Yeah. And I thought it was interesting because they kind of flesh out why each person would be motivated to kill. And they just have a lot of fun in this scene. And that also really puts on display the meta aspect of the film. The satirical parts of it, as far as the tropes that you've always seen for the past 30 years in any slasher horror film. So it works really well. Moving on, Sidney goes home to wait for Tatum to come pick her up. Remember, she's home alone. Pappy Neil, he went out of town on business. The phone rings, and she hears a strange voice, the same one that was on the phone with Casey. At first, she thinks it's Randy joking around with her, but then the caller turns abusive and brings up Sydney's mother. He asks her if she wants to die, because he knows her mother sure didn't. And this, preludes to the fact that, oh God, I told them Cotton was the one that murdered my mom. Who's this guy? This can't be Cotton. So at this point, the killer emerges from a closet in her house, and a chase starts throughout the house where she goes upstairs and then ends up coming back downstairs and opening the door. When she's upstairs in her bedroom, she gets on, is this like the OG messenger?
Yeah, it's like a weird 911 chat room.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
It says emergency call, now, but she's like typing it.
When I was young, I never had like AOL Messenger or anything like that. So, and it's definitely before your time.
Yeah, I don't know nothing about it.
But I thought that was funny. So, like,
if there were cop chat rooms, let us know.
Yeah, like during the chase sequence, she runs to her bedroom and she's able to kind of put herself in her room, lock herself in her room long enough to get on her AOL chat and send a 911 call for her address.
That's another thing that's like, just shows off that like Ghostface is just a dude. Is like your Michaels and your Jasons would have just busted that door right now, but he's struggling behind it he's like wah, wah.
Yeah, like literally break this thing off the fucking hinges.
Yeah, but he's stuck between two doors.
I'm pretty sure when he's chasing her up the stairs too, he like slips and falls down the stairs.
Yeah.
Like there was a banana peel or something.
I was expecting a whoop, 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 whoop sound as he tumbles down the stairs.
I watched a review that Jeremy Johns did of this movie at one point, and he kind of like pokes fun at the fact Ghostface is such a klutz, and like he showed a bunch of scenes where Ghostface was like tripping and falling or getting hit, but he was like dubbing the like Homer Simpson like over top of it. It was really funny.
Ghostface's clumsiness and just like being a normal dude susceptible to normal dude pain is like my favorite part about the entire. Like I laughed at so many scenes of him just getting bodied by like these people he's trying to kill.
And that's the other thing too that makes it meta almost. It's like they're poking fun at the fact Jason Voorhees is fucking invincible. Like he should just be able to, have the same hand-eye coordination as any regular Joe. But so anyway, she calls 911, and then at this point, Billy arrives, climbing through her window, and she's like screaming in a panic, and embraces Billy. And whenever she embraces Billy, a cell phone falls out of his pocket. And it's like the most archaic looking cell phone ever.
His Nokia 1.
Yeah. It's like the beta version. When it falls out of his pocket, she goes into a panic, thinking he's the killer, runs back downstairs, and then that's where we meet Dewey, police officer, who's actually the older brother of Sydney's friend Tatum. He's standing there holding the Ghostface mask that he found on the porch. So at this point, she goes to the police station along with Billy, where he is questioned. At the police station, Sydney meets with Dewey again. Like I said, it's Tatum's older brother. It says right here, who is considered adult. Like, I never really got that impression. I mean, I get that he's like supposed to have the rookie cop vibe. He's young, but I don't know about adult. But anyways, outside the police station, she is confronted by nosy news reporter Gail Weathers, portrayed by Courtney Cox, who is a local writer that's trying to make it big. She was trying to expose the murder of Sydney's mother for her own game, towards becoming famous. And she writes a book about how she believes that Cotton is wrongfully convicted. So at this point, Gail is following up on the story, and she feels that these murders that are happening now, like with Casey Becker, is connected to Sydney's mom's murder from a year ago. So after a little confrontation with Sydney, Tatum takes Sydney back to her house and they get ready for bed. While they're hanging out in bed, there's a phone call to Tatum's home landline, and she answers it, and it's Ghostface, and he tells her that she's got the wrong guy again. Yeah. Further implementing that she was wrong about Cotton Weary. So the next day at school, Sydney is threatened by the killer while she's in a bathroom, but she's able to escape. School is over, and curfew has been put in place, where a group of friends decide to throw... Man, this is jumping way far ahead.
Well, to be fair, not a ton happens.
Yes, it does.
What?
So
what am I forgetting
after
about?
the escape scene, that's when she runs into Billy. He's already been...
Oh, well, yeah, after he gets let out of his jail thing. Because he was interrogated by the police because, he was in the house when Ghostface was trying to kill her. And
so when
hey.
when she goes back to school the next day, and she's confronted again by Ghostface in the bathroom stall, she escapes. When she's running, she runs into Billy, and they have a conversation. And this is Billy after he's been released from the police station. They tracked his cell phone records. He didn't make those calls. And they have kind of an argument about how, his mom left his dad, and he accepted it and said he needs to accept that her mom passed away. And, she tells him, you're selfish. It's nothing the same. Your mom's still alive.
Yeah,
And, this is a scene where if I have to have one, drawback in the film, I do think that Billy is kind of he doesn't really offer much at this point in the movie. When he's introduced, he's just kind of like the stoic bad boyfriend. In this scene right here, he's still the same. More. He doesn't deliver his dialogue with anything that I really give a shit about.
Yeah, he is very very flat performance in that scene. He's like, what do I gotta do?
Yeah, yeah. And then, like you said earlier,
it's not me.
Yeah, and like you said earlier before we recorded it, whenever he's getting interrogated in the police station, just more of the same.
Yeah.
Just kind of dull.
I got bored. I went out for a drive.
So, at this point, there's also some students in the school. The school's still abuzz with what's going on with the murders. Some students dress up as Ghostface and run down the halls scaring people.
Yeah.
At this point, they get
just so messed up.
Yeah, I mean...
People have died, and you're dressing up as the person that killed him and running through the hallways.
Like you said, though.
Yeah, no, I 100% went to school with people that would absolutely do that. And, if this was a real situation. And it's awful, it's terrible. But, I could look at them by name and be like, that's who would do that.
Well, I mean, people are stupid. People do dumb stuff. But, so these students that are playing this prank get pulled into the principal's office. I can't remember his name in the film.
Mr. Haybuyer?
Hembry. It's Mr. Hembry.
That's it. Yep.
And he is played by Henry Winkler, which is awesome.
Yeah. Hunter knows him as the Fonz. I know him as I don't remember his character's name right now, but I mentioned the show Barry.
Okay.
In a previous episode. It was the pilot episode. I mentioned the show Barry that I really like, and Henry Winkler plays Bill Hader's character's acting teacher, and he's just hilarious. I love him.
That's right there with my list of things.
That's the only thing I've ever seen Henry Winkler in is Barry.
Have you ever seen Waterboy?
No.
It'll be next on the pod.
The only Adam Sandler movie I've ever seen is Hotel Transylvania.
Oh my God.
It's got all the same people.
It's actually pretty good. It's actually pretty good. Hotel Transylvania is actually pretty good.
No. I love the original Hotel Transylvania.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm over the moon about it or anything.
Oh, yeah, but it's a good watch.
But
it is very much an Adam Sandler movie, though.
Henry Winkler is a football coach in The Waterboy. He's got a pretty prominent role. So these students that are playing this prank get pulled in the principal's office, and he kind of rips their ass, tells them they're expelled, and tells them to get out of his office. He throws them out, and then we see a scene of him kind of just doing principal stuff. I don't know. He hears strange noises. Is that what it is that kind of takes him out into the hallway to look?
Yeah, well, it wasn't. The scenes aren't directly next to each other.
Yeah, there's a little cut scene between.
But it's something. He hears some rustle. He's getting knocks on his door. That's it. People are knocking on his door, and then and at this point, school had been let out indefinitely.
Yeah.
Due to the murders, so no one's in the building.
They had canceled school at this point, and then the police station has bestowed a curfew on the town.
So no one's supposed to be in the building, and so he's getting these knocks on his door, and so he's going, he's opening it, no one's there, opening it, no one's there. So he steps out into the hallway, which you should never do.
Well,
leave
he
an
actually doesn't
opening.
die in the hallway. So.
Well, no, but he left an opening. And so, he finds nothing. So he goes back into his office, and the closet that he left open is closed now. And he's like, "Oh, there's someone in the closet."
Right.
So he goes up to his closet, and you're expecting the cliche ghost face or someone's gonna jump out of the closet, but he opens the closet and there's no one in there.
Right.
But then you get that he closes the closet door and he's walking around the office, and he goes to close his actual office door that he left open. And behind the office door, lo and behold, is our boy Ghostface, ready to put some holes in him.
I love how whenever Principal Hembry gets stabbed, he kind of doesn't like he screams, but then he because he's getting stabbed multiple times, he's like, ow, 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 ow.
Yeah, he just goes, ow, ow, ow,
it's like really funny. And then when he falls on the ground, there's some visual effects where it shows Ghostface reflection in
his eye. It's so funny. I don't know if that was supposed to look bad, but it didn't look great.
The movie could have not had that.
Yeah, I think it was. I thought it was funny. I laughed. I don't know if it was meant to be a funny scene. If it was, then it worked.
I don't think it was meant to be funny, to be honest.
Backpedaling just a little bit to the scene where he's chewing out the boys for running down the hallway.
Yeah,
I love that scene so much because he picks up these comically large sheer sized they're like office scissors because they're in his office, but they're huge garden shear sized scissors.
He got them shits from Edward Scissorhands.
For real. And every time he moves them around, they make this really cartoony, just shing, shing sound effect. And he cuts one of their ghost face masks in half. And I don't know, every scene he's in just has something funny about it. And I don't know if that was intentional or not. But I just don't understand why the scissors were so big and why they made comical clinking noises. But I loved it. I was losing my mind about it.
I've watched this movie, I would say probably over a dozen times, and I never really realized the whole ridiculous scene, the scissors scene. and it's just nice to get a second perspective.
It's they didn't even have to be huge or make those noises. Right. They could have just been regular scissors, and the scene would have been exactly the same. That was a choice they made. Also, talk about the most hardcore school principal in the world. Talking about waving these I'm pretty sure he runs the blade across one of the kids' faces, and he's across his chest, on his sweater.
Yeah, because he tells them that they're expelled, and they're like, that's not fair, and he's like, no, you're right. What would be fair would be to gut you little shits like the cowards you are.
Yeah, he was pressed about the prank.
Yeah, he's an interesting character. He's short-lived for the film, but he's fun. I like him.
He takes his time and he uses it well.
We didn't even touch base on the little Easter egg we get where he goes out in the hallway to see what the sound is, and he said he looks out the door and says, "You little shits," and the janitor says, "What do you call me?" And the principal says, "Not you, Fred." And the janitor is wearing
like Halloween store levels,
a cosplay of Freddy Krueger,
the hat and everything.
It was really
funny.
Fun. So principal gets it. He's gone. He's dead. And at this point, now that we have no school and curfews in place, Stu decides to throw a party at his pad. So there's a little bit of plot thickening. We have a scene where Dewey is speaking with a detective about them tracing phone calls. They were to Neil Prescott's cell phone, well, a cell phone under Neil Prescott's name anyway. Yep. And then we also have a scene of Sydney and Tatum going to the grocery store, getting ready for the party, and then the party hits. So, and it's your typical high school party, dudes drinking beers, acting like idiots, and they are trying to decide which horror movie they're going to watch. And so obviously they end up settling on the original Halloween. And Gail Weathers, the news lady, shows up at this party and sneaks a camera into the party to record everything. And she puts this camera right underneath of the TV where people are watching the horror movie. So after this, she attempts to talk to Sydney, but Dewey intercepts her. The two of them talk, and then they kind of go outside to take a walk down the street because some of the kids at the party said that they saw a car parked in the bushes. And at this point, it's kind of,
It's a bit of a blossoming
showing the
romance.
Love. Yeah, which goes on in all the films.
Oh,
and
yeah?
Courtney Cox and David Arquette are married.
Oh.
I know they were for sure. I don't know if they ever got divorced, and I'm not backing out of the synopsis page to find out.
Yeah.
But there's actually a scene in one of the movies in Scream 3 where he gets her to sign one of her Gale Weathers books, and she opens it, and there's a hole cut in the middle of it with a ring. Like, yeah, it's wholesome content.
I didn't realize that they were recurring characters throughout the series. I thought it was a different cast every time.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we touched on this, but this is the first time I've seen this movie, so obviously I haven't seen any of the sequels.
Just for everybody's sake, you should know wholeheartedly that if you come on this turf, you're going to get your shit spoiled. So,
oh well, yeah.
This is a spoiler-loaded podcast.
I was actually digging the fact that we have not addressed who the killer is yet.
And we're not going to do that just yet.
No. We'll get there when the movie does.
It will be spoiled.
Well, yeah. If you haven't seen this movie from 1996.
I listened to a podcast, shout out Horror Movie Club. Love you guys.
Shout out Horror Movie Club.
If you ever listen to us. But they do a really, really good job of, at the beginning of every podcast, just saying, we're going to discuss some spoiler-free content.
Yeah, they have a little music track in between the non-spoiler and spoiler
I'm
section.
jealous of their music track, too. The one dude, I can't remember which one, but the one guy, he's like in a band. And he does that shit himself. So
our tracks are just royalty-free.
Shout out to those guys. But we have bomb art that Brett did. So
yeah, I did do that.
Make sure you should open a like a Etsy shop or something.
Yeah. Also, prints of our logo. You can get posters.
Yeah,
Real Rendezvous posters coming to Etsy.
Yeah, make sure you.
That's not true. Don't look for those.
Yeah,
not yet.
Those don't exist. Etsy, that's awesome. Yeah. So, anyways, Dewey and Gail take off walking down the street looking for this car that has been dumped on the side of the road. And at this point, Billy shows up to the party and asks if he can speak with Sid. So, there's a little bit of friction to begin with. I think that Tatum maybe says that Billy needs to leave. Mm-hmm. But then Sydney intervenes and says, well, no, he's right. We do need to talk. Yeah. So they go upstairs to discuss their relationship and all the issues they have going on, and while the party continues on, push comes to shove, they end up getting it in, and
it's really funny. This entire love scene with them upstairs is intercut with scenes of Randy commentating over Halloween. He's like, oh, here comes the obligatory tit shot, and then it cuts upstairs and she's taking her shirt off. Yeah, and then they also have like a whole little discussion, which I just love Randy. Like, he's such a movie nerd. Randy's little speech is one of my favorite parts.
Like, there's a little part of All of Us in Randy.
Yeah, 100%.
So
Randy's our everyman. He's our portal.
He was the hero that this movie really needed. Mm-hmm. But so like there's like that little part where they're discussing, it's talking about the tits on the screen, and then it's like, what about Jamie Lee? When do I get to see Jamie Lee Curtis breasts? And it's like, no, she didn't get nude until she went big in the film Trading Places in '83, which I looked that up, and she literally does a topless scene in that movie. So yeah, my man Randy
knows his stuff.
With it.
Especially as his horror movie rule list.
So at this point, another iconic scene, Randy gets up to tell everybody about the rules to abide by when you're living in a horror film. I don't have them wrote down, but I know, rule number 1 is you can never have sex, which is met to boos from the entire party.
Yeah.
And then also you can never drink or do drugs.
Which they boo again.
Yeah. They all do a cheers,
Yeah.
And then the third one is, by no circumstances at all are you allowed to say, I'll be right back, because you won't be right back. Mm-hmm. And then...
which is met by Stu saying, hey, want some more beers? And he's like, oh, yeah, grab me one. He's like, I'll be right back.
As he stumbles into the kitchen to get more beer.
Matthew Lillard, man.
and like Randy's like, yeah, I'll see you in the kitchen later with a knife in your back. Thanks. So at this point, I believe there is no beer in the fridge in the kitchen. So he asked Tatum to go out to the garage to get him some beers. So Tatum goes out to the garage to get more beer. Because everybody's got a garage fridge, you know?
No, of course. That was my dejected sigh about the upcoming scene.
Yeah, spoiler. So Tatum's out there trying to get some beer. She grabs like 3 or 4 and is carrying them back to the door. Ghostface is standing in front of the door. She kind of has like this little talk with him, this kind of playful banter where she doesn't believe it's the killer. She believes it's Randy or Stu in a costume.
I love how everyone, like, it's like a recurring gag that everyone just immediately assumes it's Randy.
Right.
And then they gotta be like, no, I'm not Randy.
Yeah, and this is where earlier when I was talking about like the Casey Becker sequence, there's times when the camera angle is tilted or inverted, and this is brought back in the sequence where it shows her kind of like looking up at Ghostface where he's standing a couple stairs higher than her, and she says, "Is this where I get to play helpless girl or whatever?" And please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel.
I was gonna say really funny anecdote about that line in particular.
Yeah.
Kaylee, I watched this movie with my girlfriend Kaylee.
Shout out Kaylee.
Yeah, shout out Kaylee. And they had never seen it either. Like this was Kaylee's first time watching the movie too. But when it got to that scene, they said before Tatum had said it, they said, "Please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to make it to the sequel." And I had to pause the movie because I was like, "You've never seen this before. How did you know that was exactly the way and the line that she was gonna say?" And I guess it's because that line is going around as like a TikTok audio.
Oh, no way! Is it really?
Something like that. And Kaylee, watches a lot of TikToks, but it was like it was so funny. I just lost it. I was like, "How did you know that?" So that was a very memorable moment for me in particular.
And I think that's also another thing that they rip hardcore in Scary Movie. That scene in particular.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, there's like a big bimbo, like, slutty, mouthy girl.
See,
like
Tatum wasn't even really
a slut.
Portrayed as a bimbo. She was really headstrong and like really held her own. That's why I liked her so much.
But there's a girl that is like in Scary Movie, like having that same kind of scene. And I don't know if you remember or not, but he like kills her. He stabs her. She doesn't die, and she keeps going on. And then she I think she gets decapitated at some point.
Yeah, and then her head's still like,
she's still talking. Yeah. So
she's like, "Great prank, guys."
Yeah, like it's so stupid.
Yeah,
but it works. But yeah, so Tatum, she finally realizes this is not Stu or Randy or anybody. Whenever he grabs her arm and cuts her arm open, she's able to escape a little bit, and then she throws a couple beer bottles at him, busting him over his head, and like hits him in the balls.
I absolutely lost it when she hit him with the beer bottles. It's just so fun. Like
she also like clotheslines him with the freezer door.
Yeah.
She straight goes WWE on this guy.
He can take a beating.
And
but he does take a beating.
So when this happens, she tries to go back out the door and then realizes that he locked it. She escapes him again and runs back towards the garage door and tries to crawl through the cat door that's in the garage door. And Tatum can't fit through this cat door. So she's halfway through the door and Ghostface just hits the garage door open button, which picks her up and just smashes her into the top.
Yeah.
Which honestly,
we were talking about it a little bit earlier. I don't think that would have killed her.
No, it's not realistic, but I'm going to tell you right now, that's an iconic death scene.
Oh, it was cool looking, yeah.
It's dope, dude. Not a lot of blood, but like it just still looked cool. There's like a like if you watch it, as soon as her head hits the top, it shows it get compressed and smashed.
Yeah.
And like you can tell it's not a real, you can tell it's a prosthetic or whatever.
It's really fast too. Like it's a very quick, just like blink and you'll miss it, like head crush.
It does suck that Tatum dies though, because I like Tatum too.
I was devastated, truly.
So anyways, nobody finds Tatum in the garage. There's a phone call at the house. Randy answers the phone, and it's somebody else that is outside of the party that tells Randy that the principal was found dead, and hung on the goalpost at the football field at the school. He tells everybody this in a real, somber, depressed tone. And all the bros at the party are like, dude, let's go check it out. Yeah. So basically, the entire party leaves to go look at their dead principal's corpse hanging from the goalpost.
We gotta see this.
Which is hilarious, too, because, like, in reality, like, you know, if we wanted to drive to East West Stadium because there's a dead body hanging there, you would not be allowed on property.
Oh, absolutely
you know what
not.
I mean? Like, there's no way you'd make it. But, so the party pretty much gets cleared out, and we jump over to Gail and Dewey walking down the street looking for this car as they're flirting. And, you know, I feel like there was some aspects to this scene that kind of almost wanted to allude to maybe Dewey was the killer. If you listen to the score, it does like this really like peculiar like piano like like kind of like questioning what he's doing, and the whole fact that he voluntarily wanted to draw Gail away from everybody.
That's fair.
By themselves.
Yeah.
So they're walking down the street, and this car, the cars of like the kids wanting to go look at their dead principal, they come flying down the road, and Dewey's like telling them to slow down, and they don't, and it's a 1-lane street. So him and Gail almost get hit. He pushes Gail into the bushes, and they roll down the hill, and, you know, obviously he's laying on top of Gail. He's got to kiss her.
Oh, absolutely.
So they start making out.
It's the rules.
That's one of the rules that Randy just said. So they start making out, and then Gail stops him and says, what's that? And then there's a car there. Comes to find out it's Neil Prescott's car, which doesn't make sense because
He's supposed to be out of town.
This car should be at the airport.
Yeah.
So
peculiar.
More red herring, which I love. Like, this movie honestly does do a good job at giving you red herrings.
Yeah, there's some. When we get to the end, there was something I was going to touch on about that.
At the very end.
Yeah,
Okay.
Once we got it all out on the table.
Okay.
Because it's something Mama brought up. That's what I call my grandma. While we were bowling, and I really agreed with her.
Okay, so we jump back to post-sex Billy and Sydney. They're, you know, having a discussion, and Sydney doesn't really take another jab at Billy, but asks him something that kind of sets Billy off, and, you know, he's kind of like, I can't believe you still think it was me. What do I have to do to convince you I didn't kill anyone? At this point, Ghostface comes through the door behind Billy. Billy doesn't realize it, and Sydney's like, Billy, look out. And he gets stabbed a couple times, falls on the bed with blood on his chest, and chase ensues. And so Sydney runs through the house, getting chased by Ghostface, ends up going outside, trying to find help. When this happens, Randy's the only dude left watching Halloween, dedicated to the game, dude.
Yeah, he's finishing this movie.
Yeah, so he's by himself. I've been there before, dude.
That's
like,
fair.
I had some buddies over watching a movie, and like they're all like passed out, especially if, you know, we're a few beers in, like just like everybody else is like falling asleep or left.
Yeah,
like, I have such a hard time starting a movie and not finishing it. But so Randy's still watching Halloween, and it's a scene where in the film Michael Myers is sneaking up on somebody, and Randy's, you know, like, look behind you. And when he's doing this,
just turn around.
Yeah, when he's doing this, Ghostface is approaching him from behind. So
there's lots of fun scenes like that.
And this movie, did we already say it's got like a lot of Easter eggs?
Yeah.
This movie's got plenty of Easter eggs for, you know, like we said, the Freddy Krueger one, Halloween.
Even just Billy's last name, Billy Loomis.
Dr. Loomis. I mean, there's probably other ones where, you know, that are over our heads.
There was one I noticed before I realized, because when I knew, Hunter had told me before that this movie was by Wes Craven, but when I turned it on and was watching it, I had forgotten. And I didn't realize until his name showed up after the movie ended in the end credits, because there's a reference to his name. I don't remember
to Wes Craven's name specifically.
I don't remember what exactly the scene was. Tatum's talking to Sydney about scary movies, and she's like, yeah, like that guy, Wes Carpenter.
Yeah, she does.
And I was like, oh, cool, a Wes Craven reference. And then he made the movie, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's whenever they're talking about like the party that Stu's planning on having, and they're sitting on the front porch. They're talking about the party that Stu's planning on having, and also just kind of like talking about the murders and stuff. And at that point, she says, it's like a Wes Craven flick.
Yeah.
And also, Stu has like a stereo system playing "School's Out" by Alice Cooper.
Yes.
Which I haven't even really talked about a whole lot yet, but I love this movie's soundtrack. I've already touched base on the score a little bit, which is also so dope, but the soundtrack is awesome. It's got Red Right Hand by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, which is like literally the epitome of Halloween songs, in my opinion. Like, anytime we have a Halloween party here at the house, I always ruin everyone's time because they want to listen to Juice World or whatever. And I'm like, no, we were listening to Red Right Hand by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. That's all there is to it. We're listening to that. We're going to listen to Apple Sodom by Marilyn Manson. We're going to listen to Danzig. And that's it. Halloween rock and roll. So everybody hates me. Nobody will come to my parties.
That's not true. I came to your party.
Best dressed too.
All the music Hunter was stating was playing downstairs, and then Alyssa upstairs with all her friends had her Lizzo's and her Juice WRLD. I don't think I've ever heard Alyssa listen to Juice WRLD in my life.
She likes Juice
really?
WRLD.
That's cool. Yeah, shout out Juice WRLD. I've never heard a single one of his songs.
She couldn't name a single one of his songs, but she likes that kind of, what would you call that? Is that mumble rap?
I don't know if Juice WRLD's mumble rap. I'm a big Lil Nas X guy. That's my...
Well, Alyssa likes that too. But Alyssa likes...
Alyssa listens to like a lot of... Yeah.
I gotta quit talking about Alyssa. But I mean, it's got that song. It's got, like I said, "School's Out" by Alice Cooper. It's got this song called "Youth of America" by a band, Bird Brain, which I've never heard another song by them ever.
Bird Brain is a cool band name.
I know, right?
I like that.
Like,
we are Bird Brain.
I'm trying to think of other... It's got a really cool acoustic rendition of "Don't Fear the Reaper." It plays whenever Billy's first introduced, whenever he sneaks in Sydney's room. I love this movie soundtrack. And then, like I said, too, I love the score. That was a really cool
song to play under his introduction.
For no reason.
Not at all.
So, anyways... moving on, I lost my place. Where were we at? Sydney.
Billy just got stabbed.
Right. Sydney escapes. Ghostface gets sidetracked because he realizes dumb Randy's laying here by himself watching the movie. At this point, Ghostface gets sidetracked again when he hears Sydney screaming outside. Sydney's already jumped into the news van with Gail's cameraman. Gail's cameraman can see... Shout out Kenny. And one thing I love about Kenny, because like Gail's a bitch and makes fun of him for being overweight.
Yeah, he lays into him.
He's got a snapback hat on that is literally on the last snap. That like it barely is on his head. But so
he's a trooper though.
For the next 30 seconds, he is. So Sydney seeks refuge in this van with the cameraman. And the cameraman can see Kenny. He can see the TV. Well, not the TV, but he can see the camera that Gail placed under the TV to record the party. There's a 30-second delay on the recording to the monitor screen that they're looking at. And so as soon as Kenny gets out to run in the house to save Randy, because he can see Ghostface behind him, he realizes, oh my God, there's a 30-second delay. And as soon as he jumps out of the van... Ghostface meets him and slits his throat.
Yeah, rest in peace, Kenny.
So Sydney starts getting chased by Ghostface again, runs away. It's kind of a lengthy chase scene here, which concludes with her making it back to the front porch of the house. And then at this point, Stu and Randy both show up. I believe one of them stabbed. Stu's stabbed, isn't he? Or cut or something.
No,
somebody's like slightly injured or something. Maybe
Randy's because Randy got Gail beat Randy's face into the telephone.
That's what it was.
Because he spooked her by accident.
That's what it was. Yeah. So, but they're stumbling through here, accusing each other of being the killer. And Sydney how did she come in possession of the gun? Oh, we're messed up here.
Yeah, Dewey
and Gail made it back to the party.
Yeah.
Yes. And so when Sydney gets to the front porch, Dewey comes out.
He's like, collapses, "Hey, Sydney."
He collapses with a knife in his back. Sydney takes his gun and starts telling, Stu and Randy, back up, leave me alone. And at one point, she finally just like, fuck you both. And shuts herself in the house.
That was funny.
When she does this, they're still outside arguing, and I believe like Stu's like, "Oh my god, baby Sydney lost his mind!" Like, really hamming it up. I love it.
Again, just more of that Randy accusation. Dude has done nothing this whole movie.
Yeah, my dude got drugged this whole movie.
Yeah, everyone just immediately assumed, like that. That was really funny.
So when this is happening, I can't remember what Randy says to convince Sydney to let him in. What was it?
Oh, what was it?
Might say in the synopsis here.
It might. I don't remember how he gets his way in.
But so she ends up letting Randy. She ends up letting Randy into the house. I can't remember why, but Randy comes in with her, and Billy comes downstairs to.
He throws himself down those stairs.
Yeah, he's somehow still alive.
Yeah,
bleeding. Comes downstairs and kind of like grabs Randy and backs him away from Sydney, and he convinces Sydney to give him the gun. And so at this point, Randy turns and quotes Norman Bates from the film Psycho and says, "We all go a little mad sometimes," and then shoots Randy.
Well, no, wait. Yeah, no, sorry. I don't know. My bad.
Yeah. Which, whenever Randy works his way into the house and is he's not scuffling with Sydney or anything like that, but he's in a panic. He doesn't know who the killer is. Sydney doesn't know who the killer is. Mm-hmm. She tells Randy to back up, and that's when Billy kind of stumbles down the stairs, and, Randy's claiming that Stu's gone mad. He's lost his mind, and that's when the turn happens, and Billy turns around with the gun and says, "We all go a little mad sometimes," and then busts a cap in Randy.
Yeah, right, just right in the shoulder.
Yeah, it's in the shoulder.
Yeah.
So
what I was gonna say when I got jumbled is I thought I got Norman Bates and Patrick Bates mixed up. Patrick Bateman mixed up, and I was like, oh wait, I thought he quoted So that's what I was gonna say, but then I was wrong.
Were you trying to correct me?
No, not
a Scream quote,
not a correction,
or more so a horror movie quote.
Just my own misinterpretation.
How dare you?
No, I did. I'm sorry.
So, anyways, a great turn here. We find out that Billy's death was
Skeet's
faked.
giving it his all.
Yes, Skeet, our God, our Lord and Savior. So his death was faked, and he, in fact, is the killer. After he shoots Randy, he wipes the blood off his chest, and Sydney's like looking at him, doesn't say anything, but she's just super confused.
Yeah,
and he wipes the blood off his chest and puts it in his mouth and says, "What does he say?
Cornstarch.
Cornstarch.
Same thing they use for the pig's blood in Carrie.
In Carrie, yes. Mm-hmm. And so Sydney starts backpedaling and tries to run away, and she runs through the kitchen doorway and runs into Stu. Mm-hmm. She's telling Stu, "Oh my God, please help me." And at this point, Stu just pulls out a voice modulator and says, "Surprise, Sydney."
Yeah.
And then another great twist.
It's a big reveal.
There was there wasn't just one killer. There were two the whole time.
Stu Marker?
Meeker, I think. Or Mocker.
Stu Mocker and Billy Loomis.
So
our ghost faces. At
this point, they start to deliver a little exposition and let us know that they were in it together. And Sydney is asking him why. And their first response is great. Why? There is no why.
Stu, it sounds like she wants a motive.
Yeah.
Isn't it scarier when there isn't a motive, Sid? Yeah.
Motives are incidental. It's the millennium, which is a quote that Randy says earlier in the film to Billy. And Billy says, motives are incidental. I like that.
Yeah.
Whenever they're having like a little interjection at the movie store. And I think it's funny how it kind of comes around and he uses it whenever he's talking to Sydney. So at this point, they do have a motive, though. Billy says that him and Stu did in fact kill Sydney's mother a year prior because Sydney's mother was having an affair with Billy's father. Mm-hmm. And that is why Billy's mom left his father. Stu... He
doesn't have much of a stake in things. He's just kind of along for the ride.
The fact he says peer pressure is pretty accurate whenever you really think of it. So he says that that's the whole reason why he had planned this. And they they plan to frame Neil, Sydney's dad, who has been in this house apparently the whole time in the closet with a gag in his
and
mouth.
Him tied up, duct taped.
Which is hilarious.
Just in the closet.
So they pull Neil out and show Sydney that he's been there.
What would have happened if someone during the party was just like looking for chips in the kitchen and they opened the wrong closet?
Where's the coat check at? Oh,
hey, Neil.
Yeah, hey, Mr. Prescott, what are you doing in there? So they pull Sydney's dad out of the closet, already tell them how they're planning to frame him, and then put the voice modulator in his pocket, the cell phone in his pocket. They go to get the knife, and at this point, Gail woke up. She's got a gun, and she says, I heard all this, and this isn't going to happen. She tries to shoot Billy, but she doesn't realize that the safety's on the gun, and Billy is able to knock her out and take the gun back. But at this point, Sydney escapes because both Stu and Billy are focused on paying attention to Sydney.
Yeah, Stu and Billy are also pretty hurt at this time because part of their plan was to make it look like they were attacked, but
they were
made
going
it
to be
out
the
alive.
only two survivors. Yeah.
So they took a little intermission to just stab each other a few times. Billy a little more than Stu. Dude just lays into him.
I was going to try to just wrap up the synopsis here and then jump back to this scene because this scene just has so much
it's got a lot going
good
on.
Shit happening.
Yeah.
But so
that's my bad.
No, you're good because that is a key factor of how she's able to escape them.
Yeah.
So whenever Stu and Billy are paying attention to Gail with the gun, they knock her out. Sydney's gone. Sydney then calls the house and has a little playful banter with Billy, saying she already called the cops. He's not going to find her. She's going to find him. Ends up finding Stu. And whenever this happens, her and Stu get into a scuffle. She smashes Stu's head with a television.
Best kill in the movie, in my opinion, is Stu's TV death.
I don't even know if I'd give it second, man.
No, really?
I like Kenny's throat slice.
That's so basic.
Yeah, but it looked good.
Well,
a lot of blood.
Nah, man, I like. If I'm gonna watch a slasher, I want some creative.
I like creativity. Kills. You got the creativity with Tatum's upper torso getting smashed.
I would give Stu's TV kill the golden chainsaw as James A. Janice from Dead Meat on YouTube. Shout out Dead Meat on YouTube.
Shout out Dead Meat.
Love that guy. He does this series called The Kill Count.
Yeah, you told me.
Yeah. Well, he rates the kills at the end. He gives one the dull machete for the lamest kill, and then the golden chainsaw for coolest. I would give Stu's death the golden chainsaw.
I'm gonna have to watch some of his videos.
You really should.
They sound really up my alley.
No, they're super fun. He's really good.
They get suggested to me all the time too. I just haven't watched them yet. But I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, no, you should definitely check them out.
Obviously my favorite kill is Tatum's, but. I would give Stu's third place in my book. But so anyways, she defeats Stu, and then she ends up in a scuffle with Billy, ends up getting the upper hand on him. I believe at this point, Gail does get the gun and shoots Billy.
Yeah.
So Billy gets shot. They stand up. At this point, Randy, he's not dead. And he gets up and says he's never been so happy to be a virgin.
Yeah.
Claiming this is, according to his rules, that's why he lived. So they realize Stu's dead. And they're looking at Billy's corpse. And Randy says, this is the part in the movie where the killer has a second wind of strength and comes back for one last scare. And right on cue, Billy's eyes open up and he starts to lean forward and Sydney shoots him in the forehead.
Not in my movie.
Yeah, not in my movie. And so then we're shown the police coming as the sun's coming up, cleaning up the area. And we see Dewey on a stretcher.
Yeah, he also
going
lives.
in an ambulance. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
more survivors than you would expect.
Yeah, which is another fun fact of where it kind of alters the trope. Usually everybody's dead except for the final girl. I mean, you got
that's the name of the final girl,
right? You have 4 or 5 survivors here. And now that I think of it in retrospect, this movie really doesn't have that big of a kill count.
Yeah, no, I think there's
4.
Yeah,
5 maybe.
I think 5.
Because you got Casey.
Yeah, Casey, Steve,
the principal,
Stu and Billy,
Tatum,
and Kenny. 7.
7. Okay, I undershot it a little bit, but I mean, what it has, it works with.
Kenny was your number 2 kill. How could you forget him?
I know. I'm embarrassed. So, anyways, we see Dewey get wheeled away in the ambulance. He's alive, and it starts to play more of an upbeat tune, and shows Gail. Basically, I guess Gail's not the news lady that starts covering the story. There's another news lady there that shows up and is covering as like the camera pans out away from Stu's house, and then we get the end credits.
No, it was Gail.
Was it Gail?
Yeah.
I thought it was a different news lady.
I am 90% sure it was Gail.
See, I thought it was at first too.
I can pull it up.
I'll
do it after.
Regardless, end credits roll, and that's Scream.
That's Scream.
One other thing about the end credits I love, it's just 90s. One last flash of the title card, Scream.
Yeah.
And then it starts playing another great song. I can't remember what the song's called, but it's by like an old 90s like trip pop like industrial group called Republica, and it does that thing where like the lead cast is shown with like a frame of their character in the film.
Yeah,
I like that. But it does that and then goes to the regular credits. So that's 1996's Scream. Brett, I'm gonna let you lead off since you're kind of the noob here.
Yeah.
Go ahead and just give us your overall thoughts, and then touch base on any of the little things that you just really loved and anything that you didn't.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. You know, it caught me by surprise how much I enjoyed it because, you know, I went into it with an open mind. I wasn't like, oh, I'm not gonna like it because it's a slasher. I made sure to keep myself in check, to go into it with like, okay, never seen it before.
Right.
I'll judge it for what it is. And it did. It really surprised me. It definitely, you know, and I was talking to my grandma about it. And, you know, she told me like when it was coming out, it wasn't marketed as like a satirical spoof. It was just marketed as another horror slasher film. And I think it's just nice because it's like, it's funny. Right. It, you know, but it's still engaging. Like I still cared about the story. Right. And that's one of my biggest problems with slasher flicks is that I don't get super involved in the story. But this one was different because like I was interested in seeing where it went and how the characters sort of fleshed themselves out over the course of the story.
I think just to elaborate on what you're saying right there, as far as like it was marketed as just a run-of-the-mill slasher, I feel like it works well in both aspects.
Yes.
If you just went into this movie as your average film goer that doesn't need anything extra other than you just want to watch people die in the same way you've ever watched it, you get that. But it, you know, and like I said earlier, this movie's really nostalgic for me. As a little kid, I watched it and liked it, and then as I've gotten older, it still holds value. And I think that that's, you know, part of why I love it so much, because I liked it for those stupid lowbrow values when I was young and wasn't like a film, I don't want to say a film expert or anything like that, but somebody who looked for more in movies I watch. But as times went on and I've learned more about movies, I can view it in that satirical manner. There's another movie that came out in 1997 called Starship Troopers. I don't know if you've ever
heard of that. Yeah.
It's really, really awesome. But it's another movie that I saw as a young kid. It's about Earth being at war with this alien bug species.
Like Battlestar Galactica?
I've never watched Battlestar Galactica. Oh. It could be, though. But basically, that movie, I viewed it as just like, you know, war against alien bugs. It was awesome as a kid. But as I've gotten older and like read more about the movie, like the whole movie is basically like a giant satire and a shot at like military propaganda and capitalism. And it's got a lot of political undertones that are still, to this day, stuff that is over my head. Yeah. But I like I said, I think that's a big reason why Scream holds up as well as it does. Yeah.
The only thing I would say is sort of a detracting factor, and this is what I touched on briefly earlier that me and Mama were talking about, and I waited until now because, you know, we hadn't delved into the Stu and Billy being the killers. But I will say that going into the movie with that knowledge is definitely like, I feel this movie is much better experienced blind.
Oh yeah.
I feel like I would have had a better time if I didn't go into it knowing that it was Billy and Stu.
Right.
And that's on me, just, because, I'm on the internet.
You're like me. I mean,
I look into things. Spoilers don't really, I don't really care about spoilers that much. Things that, are meant to be a surprise. They still, most of the time, tend to still get me as surprises. But I will say with this movie in particular, I think I would have been a little bit more, engaged and, on the edge of my seat with it if I didn't already know that Billy and Stu were the killers.
Right. And another thing with slasher movies, it's always the clear cut, this guy was the killer. And
I did like that there was two people. That was really interesting.
And plus, like I said earlier, I feel like they do really good at throwing quite a few curveballs at you to get you to accuse red herring.
And that's what I'm saying with I think I would have had more fun with it that way. If I didn't already know who exactly it was.
I bet you if I was 28 in 1996 and saw this movie, I would love it even more. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But yeah, if I'm going to touch base on anything negative, it's really just the fact that there's a couple characters that aren't super fleshed out or deliver any great dialogue. I know we touched base on it already earlier, but and Alyssa will kill me for this, but Skeet Ulrich as Billy, he's not great until the last 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
He's not bad per se.
He's definitely shining the most when he's able to go full on.
Yeah, psycho. Mm-hmm. And that's something we should probably touch a little bit more base on right there. It's just the last 20 minutes of the movie, because I kind of just breezed through it describing the synopsis. But the third act of the movie here, after the chase scene and then after the big reveal that Stu and Billy were cohorts in all these killings, is really great.
Oh, everyone's just giving it their all.
Yeah, and Stu, it's almost like everybody makes fun of Matthew Lillard nowadays for kind of being over the top, but he's great whenever he's going into things here and discussing and talking about all the different things that they did to set up what they were doing. But he really goes over the top. He starts spitting whenever he's screaming, and starts having a bunch of really funny one-liners, and same thing with Billy. Not as much over the top, but he's got a lot of really good one-liners. And when they're discussing what their motive is, they do have a motive, or Billy rather has a personal motive and vendetta towards Sydney. But the fact that they begin that with it's just incidental and start talking about what all their inspirations were to do these killings is really cool.
Yeah, and I liked that you were touching on, the difference between how Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich sort of played these two different types of crazy, is what I would call it. Because, you had Billy, who was more of your deep and you're cynical and evil psychopath, where your Hannibal Lecters and your Patrick Batemans, and then you had Stu, who was more of your wacky lunatics, you're the Joker, and then of that type.
A lot of people that are big fans of this movie claim that if you watch this multiple viewings, you can tell when Stu is being Ghostface.
I was going to touch on that because I know how to tell. Do you know how to tell?
No, how?
Okay, this is information that I got from Dead Meat, the kill count. Okay. But you can tell due to how they use the knife.
I was going to say that I think Stu kills Tatum.
I think so, yeah.
I just think Stu kills Tatum because it's more playful.
Yes.
I think Billy, whenever Ghostface is chasing Sydney and they're in that car and keeps playing with the keys and stuff, I think that's Stu too.
That's another good way to tell. And also Stu's clumsier, but when they're doing their stabbings and stuff, Billy goes for more of a one-handed straight stab and slashes, whereas Stu, every time he goes to stab someone, he does a tackle and then a two-handed over the back of the head to try and plunge down.
I never really thought of that, but yeah, I just
Billy chokes, but that's...
I just always viewed it as like Stu. Whenever he's Ghostface, he's much more playful.
Yeah,
but as far as negatives though, to bounce back to that before I got derailed there, I just think that the main negatives is there's a couple actors, like I said, Skeet Ulrich as Billy, and also I hate to take a shot at our lead here, but Neve Campbell, she does an okay job as being this damaged girl, but at the same time, and I've heard this from other like people and other review sites and stuff about her in this movie, but they're right. She just like doesn't have a whole lot of range with trying to show being upset or being scared.
Yeah.
Or it's all the same emotion. Even when she's happy or in a good mood,
she's kind of squints.
Yeah,
like
she does.
Like whenever she needs to show,
looks perplexed this. Like,
whenever she needs to show like an emotion that's not just like neutrality, she like squints her eyes and she's like, "What?"
That's like any time, like even when she's like happy. So not a lot of range there from her, but she still does a pretty good job though. All in all, that's kind of my only qualms, and then also the fact that it's still just a slasher movie.
Yeah. For as satirical as it is, you're still just watching.
Now, I will say this:
a slasher,
even though it's lumped in the group of the idiots, it's still the king of the idiots. I am going to say this is the best slasher of all time.
I'd say so. Yeah,
I think it's better than Halloween.
Yeah, it's more entertaining by all means.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Which some of that is just due to the time Halloween was made, but Halloween was one of the first.
Yeah.
So. But I would rank it above that. Obviously above Friday the 13th. I don't know if you've ever seen the original Friday the 13th, but it lacks.
Does it?
In anything but kills.
I did enjoy the 2010 9 remake.
I never did see that, when it came out.
Was that 2013? I don't know what year that was.
It came out.
But the remake one they did, I really enjoyed.
I heard it was pretty
surprisingly, because I didn't think I remember. You had it on at your Halloween party, and I went home and I watched it. And it's good. I do like that one.
Just so everybody knows, yes, I'm aware I just said that I've never seen that, and yes, I'm aware that 10 seconds later Brett said I had it turned on at my house.
Yeah.
Put it in context. I was at my own Halloween party. I was not paying attention
just like
to the
background
TV
stuff. He wasn't sitting down and
you gotta have the
really
whole aesthetic,
engaged.
man.
Yeah.
If you got a Halloween party, you better have a damn horror movie playing.
Of course.
That was what Netflix had
or
to offer.
Cowboy Bebop in the basement.
Yeah, you got to work with what you got. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it for the negatives. As far as positives with this film, I've already talked about it. But I think it's the best slasher of all time. The kills are great. The whodunit aspect of the movie's great. Pretty much everybody interacts well. These are all good young actors, pretty much in their peak. Minus Skeet Ulrich and Neve Campbell. They kind of struggle a little bit. I love scene chewery from Matthew Lillard and Jamie Kennedy.
Yep.
I love David Arquette as the goofy police officer, the rookie cop. I love all that shit. It all works well. That whole small town aspect I could relate to when I was young too. Growing up, outside of a small town, it just felt not real, but it felt like something that I could see happening in my life. Yeah, which didn't add a scary perspective to it, but it just kind of made it more relatable and easier to link up to. And then, like I said, I love the score and the soundtrack so much. This movie's iconic.
Yeah, iconic is definitely like 4 words. Iconic's the top of that list.
Yes, yeah. So Brett, what are you gonna give it out of 10?
Out of 10, I am giving Scream an 8.75 out of 10. That's because I feel I was discussing it with Kaylee. Kaylee gave it a 9, by the way. Kaylee's score was a solid 9. I felt a 9 was too high, but I felt an 8 was like too low. You get one of those in between movies. So 8.75, I think, is where I land on this one.
I was talking to Alyssa about what I was going to rate this. I didn't even know what I was going to specifically rate it until you were on your way over here, basically. But I want to give it a 9, and I was originally going to give it a 9, like right after post view. But I had to put myself into a little bit more general perspective of I'm watching a slasher movie. Okay, like I said earlier, it's the king of the idiots. So I don't think it deserves a 9. I don't think any slasher movie really deserves a 9. It would have to be something that's just not straight up a slasher movie to be deserving of a 9. So I think with that said, I'm going to have to agree with you and go mutually with you and have an 8.75.
All right.
It's still one of my favorite movies. I hope nobody thinks that like that's stupid that I say it's one of my favorite movies, but I'm not going to give it a 9.
Favorite doesn't mean best. It just means favorite.
Right. Yeah. I hate when people do that too. Like you say something's your favorite. Well, why do you think something else is? That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think 8.75 fits it well.
All right.
And I'm glad you liked it that much.
Yeah,
too.
no, I like I said, I was super surprised that I enjoyed it as much as I did.
Maybe at some point we'll dabble into the sequels.
Yeah. I do want to watch them now.
Well,
watching this did make me want to, because I got a month subscription to Peacock specifically to watch this movie. So
that's awesome.
I got a month to use up those $5. So
yeah, one thing I will say, this is, you could kind of lump this in there with the other slasher films like your Friday the 13th and Halloween's and Nightmare on Elm Streets, where after like the second one, they just become cash grabs from studios. But I'm going to tell you, in my personal opinion, even though it's got its highs and lows, the lows aren't that low. I think all 5 Scream movies are enjoyable films.
Yeah, I was going to say Scream 5 did just recently come out. And I know you and Alyssa went to see it, and you said it was pretty good.
Yeah,
would you say it's better than this, or no? You think this one's a better movie?
This one is the best in the franchise.
Oh, okay.
I would never. This one's the original gangster, man. This is the best one. But I will say though, not to jump into a whole review for Scream 2022, but I will say it is a good movie. It's like almost too meta, though. It knows what it is, and it's trying to play on that meta aspect way too deep. So, but with that said, at least it's self-aware.
Yeah.
So, and it's got some good brutal kills and a lot of homages to this movie specifically, the original, the first. I would never say that it was the best in the franchise, though. The first one's definitely the best. I really, really like Scream 2 a lot as well.
Cool.
And in Scream 2, they have a whole scene like early on in the film where they're discussing how sequels are never better than the first movies. And so they like touch base on like Terminator 2 and like Aliens, and it's a really cool scene. We'll have to watch it sometime.
I do want to watch it.
I think if I was going to rank all 5 Scream movies, I would go Scream 1 and Scream 2 as their respective numbers. Ranked. 1 and 2 is 1 and 2.
Okay.
I would say it's been so long since I've seen 4. Maybe we'll just go with recency bias and say 5 is 3rd, 4 is 4th, and the 3rd one's the 5th.
Nice. If I were to rank all 5 Scream movies, I would not be able to. So.
Anything else you want to touch base on with Scream, Brett?
I don't think I got anything left for him.
All right, then. Well, that has been another episode of the Real Rendezvous podcast. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. What else?
Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. There's going to be a YouTube channel up soon. I'm working on it.
I just thought it was a good idea to touch base on any platforms people could find us on.
Any of the subsidiaries of Apple Podcasts, they have a bunch of like offshoots.
I got you.
Buzzsprout, you can look us up on Buzzsprout, and that actually has links to all of our everything you can find us on. You can also find us at our socials. Twitter is just Real Rendezvous, at Real Rendezvous. That's our Twitter. And then our Instagram is real_rendezvous_pod. And on both of those socials, we do have links to that Buzzsprout page, which can take you to all of our other directories.
All right. We're still new at this, like I said earlier, so we will get better. We will hone our craft. bear with us. But for those of you that do listen, I hope you enjoy this. And reach out to us on the socials. Let us know that you like it. Let us know what we need to tweak.
Yeah, feedback is always welcome.
And on any of the platforms that you listen, give us a review.
Yep.
From what I hear, that's what all the cool kids do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you really like us, give us a positive review.
Yeah.
So with that said, I'm Hunter. He's Brett. And this has been the Real Rendezvous Podcast.
See you guys. Thanks for listening.